As I live and breathe. What is up, everybody? Welcome to week 4 of the Fantasy Podcast Talk with me, and of course, the number one co host in the business, the best knowledgeable football guy around, Mr. Jrush. Welcome back.
You're damn right. Oh, there we go. You're damn right. Gotta do everything backwards on this thing. It's all thrown off. But what is up? I'm just opening up
Yep, while we
our
get
Twitch just
situated
in
here.
case. Yep.
Welcome. Remember, our new times are Fridays at 6:30. So make sure if you haven't, make sure you like.
I'll throw Greg a
subscribe, all that.
text too, just in case.
I appreciate that.
Just
Of
gonna
course,
find
jump
out.
in the comments, give your questions. Swift officially ruled out. We also have David Montgomery officially ruled out. We'll touch that on those when we get closer to those games. Of course, we're going to do a nice little review of week 3 and the Thursday night game, which has a lot of controversy. So I think that will be a nice little midway point when we have that discussion. So without further ado, you want to jump into the last week games, Mr. Jrush?
Yes, sir.
All
I don't
right.
know. I don't know if he's in Florida, by the way. I'm not that close with McJiggle's dad, but he may be in Florida, which might prohibit a few things. But
Hmm.
anyway,
We'll still
text
have
has
a
been
good one.
sent. Yeah, of
So,
course.
first one was Steelers Browns. Browns 29-17. Good Browns win. Yes?
Didn't we talk this last show, didn't we? Because we talked the Thursday game at the end, right? Or was that not the Thursday game?
Oh no, that's fair. That's
That
fair.
was the Thursday game. Okay,
Yeah.
so
My bad.
fucking,
My
you're
apologies.
fucking with me already. The Browns won. Woo!
Gotta
The
do the
Browns
Kings
get
of
2
the
weeks
New
in a row of
Days.
love.
Bills Dolphins, which sound much better. The first
Okay.
game on 1 o'clock. Dolphins win.
So we finally got something to buzzing the butt punt. So now that we've had a butt fumble and a butt punt, obviously it's a good game. My camera doesn't love me. But we got a butt punt. My thing wants me to restart so badly. It's gonna have to wait. But anyway, we had the butt punt. It was a good game, and then the Dolphins were up 4, and they butt punted for a safety, which was glorious.
Always.
But the controversy that Pete mentioned earlier started with this game actually, where Tua got shoved backwards. I'm not saying it was the hardest shove. I'm not saying it was the weakest shove, but he got pushed backwards. Hit his head. They said it was his back. He said it was his back. He literally stumbled when he got up. And I mean, being somebody who has fairly chronic back issues, I've never stumbled like that in my life from a back injury. So I thought that was a little shady off the rip. I thought it was a head injury. We went out for the games. We went to Chris and Alex to watch the games. So you guys were grabbing the pizza at the time. So me and Alex were watching. We both thought the same thing. Like, it was not a good thing. It was definitely concussion related, no matter what they want to say and spin it. And then obviously what happened last night, when we talk about that, we'll get even more in depth. But overall, Tua was very good in this game, and they ended up winning. Granted, he went out for a little bit, but he was good in this game, and that's why they ended up winning. Bills running game still, as we say this, like the last 3 years, leaves a lot to be desired outside of Josh Allen running the ball, and that is why they lost this game. But yeah, that's that.
Do you think that it just amps up that this division could maybe see Miami Bills?
Not anymore. Obviously, we'll talk about that later on, but
Fair.
if things didn't go down the way they did, yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking that before this happened. I'm like, okay, the Dolphins are legit. Obviously, the Patriots now have an injury that we'll talk about shortly,
Very much
which
so.
is going to lower them, but it looked good until yesterday.
Well, a team also played yesterday, and they played here, where it was the Bengals versus the Jets. The Bengals won.
Oh my
Surprise!
God, we're shocked. Everybody's shocked. The Jets are coming off a momentous win, and then they reverted back to the Jets.
Now we'll talk about it obviously in week 4, but Wilson back. Can't you be excited?
If the old line can't block anybody, there's nothing to be excited about. Anybody could be quarterback, it wouldn't matter. But Jets run game also, I mean, not to shock. I mean, they took Hall, expecting him to be an every down back. Which eventually, again, they can't block anything. Once they figure out how to block, will make him a better running back. But he had a bunch of catches, which was nice to see. So I have no issues with that. Um, but their offense still is not good, even with now having playmakers with the other Wilson showing up, more Corey Davis, etc.
The Wilson connection.
The Bengals, this was their first game this year. I mean, the Bengals lost close games, but this is like the first game where the Bengals played to their capabilities. It took the Jets defense to get them there.
Do you think that this was definitely the Bengals of last year forming, or because it was the Jets? No pun intended. Do you think they still have some things to work on?
Well, we'll come up more with this at the Thursday game because something got mentioned in that game, and that's what I'm gonna bring up. So I will answer that question when we get to Thursday.
So let's talk about games that weren't on Thursday.
There we go.
Raiders versus Titans.
So I'll throw something at you. Everybody's all excited. Oh, Raiders got Adams. Raiders
Mhm.
got Adams. The Raiders are going to be better. The Raiders got Adams. They're not clicking, and they lost to a bad Titans team who got shut out. No, they didn't get shut out, but they've gotten shut down all year. The Titans ended up winning this game. Their offense finally, I don't even want to say look great because their offense didn't look that great. It wasn't Derrick Henry of the beginning of last year, and it definitely wasn't Ryan Tannehill of last year, but they did win a game. So I guess get excited. They've won a game. But what is going on here? Are we jumping off the Raiders wagon? If you were a said Raider fan, you off the Carr to Adams connection?
I still think it's early, don't you? I think by week 5 or 6 we would make that a statement. I think it's still early. You realize that listen, this year in football already has been mayhem. We're gonna get to it, but there's a team that's still undefeated in the league, which is insane. But it's
There is. We
I
lost one.
do feel like that you need a couple more weeks with Carr and Adams. You know, they're there for a reason. They look good week 1. Maybe they've just had a bad couple weeks. I think maybe week 4 they're going to click. We're going to see the matchup momentarily. We'll talk more about it, but I'm not giving up on Las Vegas yet. No, I think there's
Even in
still
that,
something there.
as a team or in that division, because they gotta remember for the most part they play in the best division
No, I
in
understand
football.
that.
You could say that for either West, AFC, NFC.
I'm saying to just as the team as a whole, because they had, I feel they've always had the pieces. They're coming together. Josh Jacobs is not obviously the best running back out there. He had a good first year, last couple, not so great, not a fantasy option. But you have, when he's healthy and he plays, Hunter Renfro, but Adams to Carr, you're going to get that connection. Carr's a great quarterback. I took him years ago. There's no reason why this team can't figure it out. Will they win the division or come into that maybe wild card? Possibility. But like I said, we're 3 weeks in. I
Well,
need to see a
let me
couple more
throw that
weeks.
at you now. So, as we saw, Renfro didn't play last week. Mac Hollins balled out. So we've already said that the chemistry is lacking with Carr and Adams.
Mhm.
Renfro was out. Mac Hollins had probably his best game of his career. Are Hunter Renfro owners concerned? Are they worried that he's going to fall down the pecking list now? Uh-oh. Pressure question already off the rip.
I'm saying, hitting them hard.
I went deep. I was on that Mac Hollins train last week. So I have him in multiple leagues. And now his numbers, projected numbers, which again are just a projection, and nobody comes near the projections ever because if you're projected high, you get hurt or don't score, and if you're projected for like 2 points, you score 30. So
Has
you
his
know
fantasy, but
they
yes.
are what they are. But I'm just saying his projections went way up last week.
Okay.
But and now are we concerned, or are we going to start Hunter Renfro this week?
Is Hunter playing?
I would assume so. I'm pretty sure he is.
Let's double check, make sure we got it for the viewers in a second. Because I have him ready to come in, but I still thought he was questionable.
All right. How many guys in
He's
your
out.
lineup? How many guys in your lineup are not questionable? Okay.
He's still not practicing concussed. He's not playing.
Okay, so that's an easy choice then.
So in
If you
that
need a
regard,
receiver, Mac Hollins might be your guy this week.
but that's what I'm saying. But here's the argument that I have for you. Okay, so Renfro's been out for the last couple of weeks. I've had him on my bench, but
Mhm.
if Collins steps up, do you see
You can't see that, but that's
something?
Mac Hollins in at my flex is what I was showing.
But do you see that in 2, 3 weeks? I'll throw it back at you. In 2, 3 weeks, do you see him then having that connection and maybe having that dual threat, and then just adding Hunter in really establishes this team as the team maybe to be in the AFC?
I don't think so. I feel like if Mac Hollins is another big week, Renfro is going to become that wide receiver 3 instead of the wide receiver 2, which I think I want to say the word severely diminishes his value because now you're wide receiver 3/punt return guy instead of a wide receiver 2. And I feel like that's going to lower his value unless he's taking kicks back to the house, which you only get points for the touchdown anyway. But yes, I think if Mac Hollins balls out like he did last week, Hunter Renfro owners are in trouble.
Heard it here first. Saints versus the Panthers. I'm going to
Oh
give you
God,
some truth here.
what a great game! Saints are amazing.
Listen to
Oh
me
wait,
here now. It
I'm
hasn't
listening.
been ruled official,
Hold on,
but
I'm listening.
Jameis Winston is doubtful. I predict that they're going to start fucking Andy Dalton.
So I haven't read up too much on this. I've read up on it on Wednesday. I didn't look at it yesterday, and I've been busy all day today. But what I read, and this will help you out. I don't know who you're playing this week. On Wednesday, Taysom Hill was taking the snaps at quarterback in practice, not Andy
But
Dalton, which was
he did go healthy today in everybody's fantasy leagues.
but
He
that
did
was a
officially
little
become
bit of a
healthy.
surprise to me. I don't know if there was, if this was trying to shut something down, but if Andy Dalton has to play, Andy Dalton should be taking the first string snaps, not Taysom Hill. So the fact that Taysom Hill was taking the snaps leads me to believe that he might be the quarterback come Sunday morning for us because they have an early game. And if Taysom Hill, who has tight end eligibility, is starting at quarterback,
Oh,
uh,
I already thought about that. You believe
th-
me? Why did you think I told you I picked him up? I was waiting.
things are
Listen,
going to happen. We already
listen.
had him in one league. It's not about picking him up. You had him once already.
I have him in 2 weeks.
But what I'm saying is you already had him in the dynasty league.
Yeah.
So picking him up,
Listen,
you picked him up once is what I'm
everybody
saying.
knows my love for Hill. There's no doubt about that. But I think, as a whole, I think that's better, especially with Michael Thomas out officially. Come on.
Well,
We need that top tier player, and that top tier player is Taysom Hill.
from what I've heard, Michael Thomas is amazing as well.
But he's
But
out.
that's a different story.
He's
I'm
out.
just saying, from what I keep
He's
hearing, is
out.
how amazing he is.
Nothing amazing, and nothing was amazing in this game. I think the Saints looked terrible. Obviously, Jameis nursing an injury, but come on, I mean, it's the fucking Carolina
All
Panthers,
right, but
guys.
this is
It's a
the same thing
division
we're gonna
game.
throw out there. So the Dolphins, the Chargers, all that, they played their injured quarterbacks, risking per se the future of the season.
Okay.
So if Jameis was that banged up, the Dolphins, the Chargers, why are you playing him? Are you telling me that Jameis is light years better than Andy Dalton? That Andy Dalton couldn't have lost to the Panthers as well? Because I'm pretty sure Andy Dalton could have lost to the Panthers. So there's nothing Jameis did that was like, wow, thank God we played Jameis against the Panthers. Because wait for it, they scored no points in the first half. That many. I get it that Will Lutz missed a kick, but they literally scored that many points. If Will Lutz made a kick, they would have scored that many points. If he made that kick, they would have lost 22-17 instead of 22-14. So there's nothing on this offense. Yes, Michael Thomas was looking all right. Olave's looked better than expected, but
Mhm.
I had high thoughts on him coming out of college, but a lot of college players get love and then they end up being a burnout that they were only good in college. But for right this minute, because he's a rookie, he's high up there on, especially dynasty / keeper leagues where he should be up there. So he's looked good. Kamar, Ingram, Jameis, they all suck. And that was seen because you lost to the Panthers.
Indeed, but we'll get them next time. Ravens versus Patriots. Ravens won. Let me tell you something about this team, ladies and gentlemen. I there's every year where I look at Lamar Jackson and I go, he's not worth picking up. He's not worth picking up, or he's not playing the league, whatever have you. The man is just incredible to watch. I think he is right now, obviously, with stats showing, and I understand through week 3, only 3 weeks, but we're looking at the MVP right there. Do you not agree, Mr. Jrush, after the performance he's been giving?
See, I love to say yes. This is a fact. The problem we run into is, I thought the same a few years ago with Russell Wilson. Halfway through the season, I'm like, okay, Russell Wilson's easily the MVP. And then the back half of the season, he just completely flopped. So I don't want to think about it 3 weeks in. Yes, he's been the best quarterback in football, probably the best player in football, all of that. But for right this minute, I don't want to be, yikes, making said judgments. That look horrible. Anyway, I think the bigger news is because for the most part, everybody knows Lamar Jackson is good and he's in a contract year. Is that Mac Jones got hurt? The Patriots' offense already wasn't that good, and now you throw a Mac Jones injury into there, where he's starting to click actually with Parker, who did nothing the first 2 weeks, and I just threw a dart at the wall and said, "Let me add Parker," and he went off. Unfortunately, on my bench, but it seemed like they had some chemistry going, which you can't say. The running game has been inconsistent. The passing game has been inconsistent. They finally get something going, and Mac Jones ends up getting hurt. And now the Patriots are in deep trouble. So what you were asking earlier about the Dolphins, if granted we don't know what's going on with Tua, I assume his season's over. A lot of people do. So if they can keep it going with Teddy Bridgewater,
Which they can.
the threat of the Patriots without Mac Jones is not there. And to be honest, the threat of the Patriots through 3 weeks with Mac Jones there wasn't even anything to write home about. So this bodes well for the Dolphins for now. But again, we got a long football season.
We love week 3. Let's go with Vikings versus the Lions. The Vikings 20-24.
So again, Lions competitive in a game. Swift got hurt. So think about this. Swift got hurt and St. Brown got hurt but came back. Also, St. Brown is not playing this week.
And neither is Swift.
Yes, neither. I know you mentioned him earlier. That's why I was just throwing St. Brown in there. So you got St. Brown, Swift, Montgomery not playing. But the Lions held the game where we've talked about where we thought the Vikings were going to win this division possibly. They were barely able to hold off a undermanned Lions offense, and to be honest, an undermanned Lions defense. Nobody thought, hey, the Lions defense was great. But the guys that they do have, for the most part, are banged up, which kind of sucks because I have such high hopes for the Lions. Like, they've been competitive every single week so far, which
I'll give that
60% of the league can't say that. But again, realistically, an undermanned Lions team lost by 4 to the Vikings, who have Cousins, Cook, who got hurt, but I believe is playing this week, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, etc. Lions win. I mean, I think the Lions win if obviously Swift and St. Brown don't miss parts of that game.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Goes to the undefeated Eagles and Washington.
So now we can say this is the final undefeated team.
This is the final undefeated team. Patent pending they haven't played week 4 because we'll talk about, but how are we feeling right now on those Eagles there, Mr. Jrush?
Well, now all of a sudden, I get it. It's only 3 weeks in. Their offense, for the most part, looks legit. But their defense has been good. But again, they played teams like the Commanders. And I I don't want to say this, but a lot of the articles I've read are like very down on Gibson, and all they keep saying is that we're 1 week closer to Robinson, coming back. He got shot in the leg twice. He's working his way back. He's been doing drills by himself, with his leg wrap, but he's getting closer. And everybody thought that Robinson was possibly legitly, even at the start of the year, already taking Gibson's job. So while Gibson had a chance to prove that he's still a viable,
He's not
practically
proving it for
every down
fantasy
back,
reason.
he's not getting it done. And is it their offense? Probably. Was it the Eagles' defense? Probably as well. But still, you got to make something happen. He's been better in the receiving game as opposed to the running game. So I don't know if that bodes poorly for J.D. McKissick when Robinson comes back or not. We'll see how that happens. And at that point, we don't know what the Commanders will be. Carson Wentz right now is 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, which is right about on par for him in his career. But nothing like, wow, this guy's the man. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. He also, so him and Gibson with the most to prove are not getting it done right this second.
Chiefs, Colts upsetting the Chiefs.
Oddly enough, yeah, go figure. And this is what we talk about. So one team can get shut out by Jacksonville and then go out and beat the Chiefs. Who would have thought this? But 3 weeks in, this is what we have in today's NFL. Matt Ryan has not looked great at all by any means. He got Pittman back. Pittman did what he was projected to do, so we'll give him that. Jonathan Taylor, I think, was a little under what he was projected. It might have even been a lot under, but either way, they found a way to win this game. They held the Chiefs offense down. The scary part for me is, and this is going to touch home because you love talking about this guy so much, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, your boy. So you look at his fantasy points on paper, he got 14.9 fantasy points. You're like, okay, that's perfect. That's probably above average for the week. He had 7 rushes for 0 yards. That is not good. I don't care that you got your 15 fantasy points. If you're supposed to be a running back, like, maybe go get me 1 yard rushing. He could not muster 1 yard rushing against the Colts defense. All of his damage was obviously done receiving. So push comes to shove, and I don't think it's going to be a possibility this season. The Chiefs need to go get a running back who can legitimately run the ball. And that's what scares me the most about their offense. We know what Mahomes can do. We know what Kelsey can do. The receivers are banged up. I get that. But still, good quarterbacks make everybody around them better. They need to form a running game. You can't go out there and beat, as we've seen, the Colts are an average team right now. You can't beat an average team with 0 yards rushing. Simple as that.
Browns beating the Texans.
That would be the Bears beating the
Bears.
Texans.
Sorry.
Reading. They'll have a B, and it's all right. So, as we talked earlier, David Montgomery's out this week, and it's because he got hurt in this game. So you'd see that, and you'd be like, wow, Bears are in trouble. But no. Same as last year. Here came Khalil Herbert to the rescue, and he went off on the Texans, which any decent running back should do anyway. He went off and carried the Bears offense to victory over, obviously, a not very good Texans team, but nobody said the Bears were any good. Everybody's, Darnell Mooney for sleeper, blah, blah, blah. He has 4 fantasy points in 3 weeks. So let me tell you something. He's not anything, and he should not be at this point rostered on your team because you're literally wasting space. Justin Fields, A, either isn't going to throw him the ball, or B, when he does throw him the ball, it ain't going anywhere near him because he's Justin Fields. They're going to run the ball. And this week, it's going to be a lot of Khalil Herbert and Justin Fields running the ball until one of them gets hurt, and then it's going to be the other one running the ball. I'm not saying they're going to get hurt, but obviously the more you have the ball, the better chance you have of getting hurt.
Very fair. Jags upsetting the Chargers. The Jags, a juggernaut right now.
They are a first place team. I know you can
Wait,
play
say
the.
that again. Would you say that the Jacksonville Jaguars are the first place team?
They certainly are, and Trevor Lawrence is finally showing what everybody thought he was going to be. But now we don't like to play the if game, but we want to just throw this out here real quickly. Do we think if Justin Herbert was 100%, this would have been that different of a game? Obviously, I don't think they would have lost by 28. But do
No.
we think Jacksonville still beats the Chargers if Justin Herbert's playing, at 90% instead of probably at 60%? I mean, you can make excuses all day long. Keenan Allen's hurt, all that. But
I
this
mean, if
Chargers
you're
offense, Eckler's done nothing, and obviously Herbert was hurt.
well, this is what I'll say. If you're telling me if 100% Charger team was facing the Jags, 100% the Chargers would win. There's no
So,
debate
so
about
you
that.
think if Herbert was good
If
to go,
everybody was
like fully
100%,
good to go, and Keenan
everybody
Allen was good to go?
100%, let's go, we're knocking out, they would have beaten the Jags. I think, though, with the team and the injuries that they have suffered right now, within Keenan Allen and, of course, good old Justin, the Jags have been looking better than most people think. James Robinson, for fantasy owners, has had 2 consistent great weeks. One not so great, but for a pickup in a late round, James Robinson really looking good for fantasy
You can
owners.
say the same about all their receivers too, which is now, like I
That's
said, Lawrence is coming into his own. You literally their wide receivers can be rostered in fantasy leagues. I get it. Back then they had DJ Chark and stuff like that. Granted, he got hurt, but you were like, okay, I could throw DJ Chark out there. But now you're sitting here. Zay Jones did work. Marvin Jones did work, and sorry,
okay.
uh, what's his name? Christian Kirk. All three did work last week against a Chargers team who, yes, is banged up on offense. They're not as banged up on defense, and they couldn't stop any of those three. And now you're sitting here with, and even Evan Ingram's been good, where you can sit here and say you could roster. I know ETN's going to be rostered, but you can roster ETN, Robinson, both Jones, Kirk, Lawrence. Like, this is Jacksonville, and all these guys are now viable options. You would have never thought that coming into this year.
But that's what I'm saying. How they're playing, how everybody's delivering all these fantasy purposes, I think they would still beat a better Justin Herbert. But I think, like I said before, a 100% fully 100% Charger team would take down the Jags. But I think the Jags, with the weeks they've had, the running back game, the wide receiving game, everybody's an option playing in fantasy. I think the Jags are something to really watch these next couple of weeks to see if they
Yeah,
keep rolling with the punches. Because
exactly. Keep
again,
that momentum going.
yeah, first place that nobody ever saw that shit coming.
Mm-hmm.
Rams, Cardinals.
God, you
Man,
talk to me about this game because one of us has Kyler Murray in fantasy, and I know which one it isn't.
exactly. Yeah, Kyler Murray not working out
He
for a
threw
lot of people.
58 passes. 58. Did he throw a touchdown? No. Kyler Murray, known for his running and his legs. Did he run a touchdown? Ah, that's not a good formula. When you A, throw 58 passes, and B, can't score. I get it. Zach Ertz dropped a touchdown. That hurts. But what? Essentially, every other team scored a touchdown. Why couldn't Kyler Murray on 58 passes throw a touchdown? When Hollywood Brown had 14 catches for 140 yards. How do you not score a touchdown out of that? Were you just throwing, sitting down, running curl routes, 10 yards a pop? Oh, dunk, 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 dunk. Here's your 140 yards. I don't want to throw the ball down the field for a touchdown. Is that what I'm seeing out of Kyler Murray? Show me something. We had this talk at bowling. I know you weren't there. And we were talking about Kyler Murray. And I was like, I wouldn't have touched him in Dynasty League. And Matt said, well, how many quarterbacks would you have taken over him? So let's just put it this way. It's a 12-team Dynasty League. We didn't even pick up the conversation because he had the bowl. We were already at 8 quarterbacks in Dynasty League that we would have taken over him. And there's probably more. We didn't have it sitting like, oh, okay, this guy, this guy. Just off the top of our head, we were already at 8
Mhm.
quarterbacks that we would have taken over Kyler Murray. So that's a scary proposition for somebody who goes about quarterback 5 or 6 in regular leagues. This is a Dynasty League where you can have him for the next forever long you want to. and he's moving down the list further and further.
It's. I'm not trying to defend him, but I'm going to defend him here.
Oh, shocker.
I think he doesn't have the weapons right now.
But that's on them then. For
I
one, what did we
understand
just
that.
say about Mahomes? Good quarterbacks make the players around them better. You can say the same about Brady for years, whatever, whatever. I get it. He doesn't have Hopkins. That's a big loss. AJ Green's 100 years old. Fine. You lost Christian Kirk. Fine. James Conner was a top 7 running back, probably even higher than that last year. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm just going off the top of my head. James Conner was a well above average running back last year. He can't get anything going because Kyler Murray can't get anything going in the pass game. You had Zach Ertz last year. You traded for him at like week 3 or 4. So you still have Zach Ertz. You traded for Hollywood Brown, who had 14 catches. So you have Ertz, you have Brown, you have Connor. You still have AJ Green. I get it. Rondell Moore hasn't played the last 2 weeks, but you threw 58 passes one way or another. And this kid Dortch, who's wasn't on anybody's radar, he's showing up. So I don't want he doesn't have any weapons excuse because other guys are getting it done. He's not. Dortch is, like I just said, is on nobody's radar, and he's average. He had 14 targets last week. Granted, again, Murray threw the ball 58 times, so everybody probably had 14 targets. But I think Hollywood Brown had 17, Dortch had 14, so that's 31, and Ertz had 14. That's 45 out of the 58 targets went to 3 players. It's not a recipe for success. I mean, trust me, I have Ertz. I want him to throw to Ertz 14 times a game. But if you're a Cardinal fan or a Cardinal fantasy owner, you're not liking what you're seeing from Kyler Murray, and I feel like, again, I've said it many times, he's extremely overrated, and he is a baby. And
We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that week 4. Don't you worry. Packers, Bucks.
we certainly will.
Packers, 14-12. My goodness, what an American game of the week, huh?
I mean, again, obviously his quarterbacks are getting older, and Bucks were without a majority of their offensive playmakers.
Oh yeah, that's 100%.
You
Edwin
would have hoped
without
there would have been
Godwin.
more scoring in this game, but obviously there's not. It does look like, on the bright side, not skipping over this game, but obviously Evans was suspended, so he's back. It looks like Godwin will be back. Julio Jones, I believe they're still calling it a game time decision, but they were saying he could go if he wants to. So if you're a Tom Brady owner, you're feeling a little better about the Buccaneers offense. The Packers offense, Jones played. Dillon played. Lazard played. Tonyan played. Their playmakers all played. And they only scored 14 points. To me, that's a lot more concerning than, the Bucks only scoring 12 with limited offense. So I think the Packers need to do something, especially with this division playing weirdly, I would say.
Well,
Like
that's my next question to
it
you.
looks like nobody wants to win this division as of right now. So,
But I see that with that division. But my question to you then is, people would say it's a lock that Green Bay is going to win this division. Do you still, seeing how they're performing lately, do you see that still being a thing?
well, I came in the year saying that I thought the Vikings would win the division. And then the Vikings laid a few eggs. Yes, they've won games, but they haven't looked great, and
They're
neither have
fair.
the Packers. So that's what I'm saying is I don't know if anybody wants to win the division. The team that goes out and gives the best showing is literally the Lions. They just don't have the talent, and the talent they have is hurt.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the Lions are the one team that's literally trying to win the division. The Bears aren't trying to win the division. The Packers can't do anything. So what I'm saying is Packers, who obviously have the best shot at winning the division realistically, need to do something. They need to acquire a receiver. They need to go to the Texans and be like, we need Brandon Cooks or something. They need to find one of those teams and be like, hey, you're not going nowhere. Which obviously they would never say that to them, but look, you're building for the future. We're trying to win now because Rodgers ain't getting any younger. What do you want from Brandon Cooks? Type of deal. There's somebody to that extent. 3 weeks in now, going into week 4, it's hard to say, because teams aren't like, oh, we're out of it already, 3 weeks into the season, but they need to get somebody one way or another. They need to find something. They need to give Aaron Rodgers something.
Very well said. Falcons defeating the Seahawks. Fun fact on Atlanta, Strider still not cleared to pitch.
Ah, well, you need him in the playoffs, not today.
Big series.
So,
Falcons won. Geno Smith, people say to pick him up, use him in fantasy. They still lost, but would you agree with those critics?
I
Is
mean, he
Geno
put up,
Smith
he put
on
up his
now?
points. He did his thing. They need to get their running game going a bit. They're another team, kind of. The Chris Carson injury last year sapped a lot of their like good feeling about any semblance of a running game. Penny was good last year, but they had Russell Wilson last year, and even though Russell Wilson wasn't great, you still and awesomely we get to talk about him next game. You had to respect Russell Wilson. You're not sitting here like, oh God, we can't let Geno Smith beat us. No, not one team in this league is going into playing Seattle and saying, "Hey, we can't let Geno Smith beat us." It's almost like, "Hey, we're gonna stop Penny because he's more of a threat than Geno Smith is," and that's how the teams are playing. So Geno needs to be able to utilize DK Metcalf, Lockett, Disley, and to an extent the running backs in the passing game. Geno needs to do that because even to be honest, even if say the Seahawks won like 6 games this year, they're drafting a quarterback next year. I have no doubt in my mind of that. Unless
Is that a
somebody
Joe prediction?
unless somebody and I don't see like a Kirk Cousins deciding to go there. Somebody just fell into their lap. I don't see that happening. So no matter what, the word is lame duck. Geno Smith was a lame duck quarterback this season. The Falcons, on the other hand, and I talk about every week, is if they play to Mariota's strengths, they'll be competitive. They were competitive against the Rams, and they beat the Seahawks this week. Cordell Patterson was good. He did pop up today, though, as trending in the wrong direction with a knee injury.
Oh, hate to see it.
So that exactly, because he's been very good for this Falcons team the last year plus. He wasn't great in week 2, but 2 out of the 3 weeks he was pretty good. So somebody who's essentially changed positions and revitalized their career. Maybe it's only a 1 week thing, which isn't the worst, but he's been playing good, and now he popped up with a knee injury on a Friday is never a good thing. So we need to keep an eye on that to see if he's playing on Sunday, which could definitely hamper the Falcons. But for this game where he played, he looked real good. Drake London looked real good. Kyle Pitts finally, his numbers aren't where his drafting position is, especially in a dynasty league, but Kyle Pitts is going in the right direction, which is nice. So if you have Kyle Pitts in a dynasty league, keeper league, etc., he's going up. He's not going down. So at least you can hang your hat on that. He's going in the right direction. The offense, for the most part, seems to be gelling. They scored 27 this week. They scored, I believe, 29 the week before. High 20s either way. So this is a team that the offense is going. If they can get some defense, they may surprise a few teams and win a few games. A few more games, I mean.
There you go. 49ers Broncos. Russell Wilson gets it at the end.
This was literally the worst Sunday night game I think I've seen in a long, long, long time. This game was atrocious. Russell Wilson is horrendous. To be honest, the Broncos offense is horrendous. Javonte Williams, who's supposed to be a top tier running back, up there, top 7 or so running back, has not done anything. Gordon is older. He's not doing a lot, and they seem to fumble a lot. For 2 running backs who never have issues, all of a sudden these guys are fumbling. I don't know if it's something with the way Russell's handing them the ball or whatever, or it's just unlucky. Whatever it may be, these guys are fumbling / dropping the ball a hell of a lot more than they have in their past. I don't know what's going on in Denver. They need to figure out something. They brought in a guy from the Ravens to help with their clock management. They they needed about another 30 minutes of gameplay time to crack 20 points at this rate. So I don't know what's going on. The 49ers didn't look any better. A lot of fantasy smart people are hopping off the Debo bandwagon already. I think it's a little early to hop off his bandwagon because we've seen what a dynamic playmaker he was. Their reasoning is he led the league in yards per catch last season at 18 yards per catch, and this year he's at a career low just over 10. But again, all right, they've been through two quarterbacks in 3 weeks. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't practice at all. He had literally no training camp, no preseason. Just go in there week 2, do what you can. Had a full week of practice last week. They didn't play very well, but the Broncos defense isn't bad. They're not great, but they're not bad. They get some pressure on the quarterback. This is the week coming up where San Fran needs to show something. Now Jimmy's got 2 weeks of practice, all that. The 49ers need to wake up. Obviously the Broncos need to wake up too, but this game was ugly.
You
And,
couldn't say it better. The game was ugly. And to touch on your point with the 49ers, fantasy owners of George Kittle, the return of George Kittle, a top 3 talked about tight end for the last couple of years, really didn't show up. So,
mhm.
like you said earlier, Debo, a lot of people feeling down about him. Kittle, not the best opening. Jimmy not having time with the team, only the 2 weeks. I understand that, but 49er needs to figure out, like you said, and the Broncos just need to. If Wilson has the weapons, he needs to use Lockett. Needs to use Metcalf. It's becoming ridiculous. He's becoming the worst fantasy quarterback I've taken, and I've taken Kyler Murray. But we'll get there. Cowboys Giants.
Well,
It's
to
the
start this game, they were trying to outdo this 49er Bronco game to start. Obviously, it ended slightly better as seen by the score. But Cooper Rush stays undefeated as a starter in his career. Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones. Fortunately, Greg's not here to tell me about how great Daniel Jones and the Giants are. I hate to see that he's not here to tell me how amazing the Giants are, and I'm just a hater. I mean, I could be wrong. My eyes are a little hazy. That does say the Giants lost. Okay, so they do suck, as I've stated many times. Barkley though looked much better. Elliott looked better, which are good things for both teams. But your teams come and go as your quarterback goes. As we saw by the game before, the quarterbacks in the 49ers Broncos game did nothing, and it was a baseball score almost 11-10. So you come and go as your quarterbacks go. Cooper Rush to CeeDee Lamb was a nice thing to see last week because Lamb had been a little underwhelming through 2 weeks. Team with the better quarterback play, shocker, won the game.
I mean, this game was nice, at least for me, in other respects. But good showing from Zeke and Barkley. At least getting over 50 yards rushing. Scoring the touchdowns. I think this might have knocked down the Giants, but they're suffering a little bit. But we're gonna see if they can turn around week 4. But
Well, I know he went
Rush,
over the yards, but what concerns me a lot nowadays, maybe it's just us, maybe it's just the group we hang around with, where we're getting excited that a running back breaks 50 yards. Like
no,
that's not good, like at all. Like 10 years ago, if running backs didn't break 100 yards, you're like, man, this guy had a bad game. Now we're sitting here getting excited that players like Barkley and Elliott breaking 50 yards, and we're like, whoa, yes, they're back. Like I said, I get it that they both were higher than that, but overall, we're sitting here like praying that running backs like
no,
them can get 50 yards, and
understandable.
that's you know not acceptable for running backs.
Uh, I apologize if I missed. I believe Gallup is back
He he said
officially.
he's playing this week, and obviously, Jimmy calls me multiple times a week, and he said that same thing. Oh, Gallup said he's back. Well, I said, guess what? It's up to the coaching staff. You know, I, obviously, as we'll talk about in about a minute, players can say they want to play and this and that, and then look what happens. Ultimately, the staff, whether it's training staff, the coaching staff, all the staff need to get together and be like, hey, so and so is good. He's not gonna, he's not threatening his career or his season or whatever. He won't be able to walk at age 30, like that. When they give you that, they check you off that box, then, all right, you're good to go. Do I think he'll play? Absolutely. But, how often do players rush back and then they end up getting re injured or whatever? That's all I'm saying about that is to let the coaching staff decide you're back, not you saying you're back.
So on that note, let's jump into yesterday's game. The controversy that was with the Dolphins coming up short against the Bengals. But that was not the big thing that happened of the Bengals winning in the game. What happened, Mr. J?
It was not. So we had the controversy that we talked about. The Buffalo game, Tua got shoved backwards, hit his head, stumbled, got taken off the field, was allowed to come back. They were doing I forgot what the word was, investigation. Onto that, they said the Dolphins did no wrong in their handling of him. That the doctor cleared him to play. You get checked by the team doctor and an independent source, and they both cleared him to play. Seems a little strange to me, especially as an independent doctor, that you were finding that he didn't have a concussion or whatever the case may be, and that you were chalking it up to a back injury, stuff like that. So the fact that there was already questions about him being able to return to that game, then 3 days later, essentially, you have a game, and who's out there playing quarterback? Tua again. For fantasy purposes, everybody, wants to play. Hey, you got Tyreek Hill, you got Waddle, you got whatever. It's much better if Tua plays. But looking at it as a human, there's no reason Tua should have been playing this game. And the twofold is at this point you're 3-0, so you're ahead of the curve. If he sits out one game and you lose, you're 3-1. You still have your quarterback the rest of the season. Now we're sitting here. We've heard reports from everything. Okay, they said he cleared everything and he went home and flew home with the team. Great, whoop-de-doo. But this is probably 2 concussions in like a 4-day span. And that's never a good thing, and that's something that has a lasting effect. I don't know if you saw it because you were working, but we had the group chat going, and one of the guys in our fantasy league specializes in this, and he wrote us like a book in the group chat about all these different things about CTE and all these things, and that the league just, sheds a blind eye to it. So from a human standpoint, there's no way Tua should have been playing. The fact that you have a capable backup in Teddy Bridgewater makes it even worse that Tua was playing. So they get to the game, and this is also another one of my things. The league always protects the quarterbacks. He literally got thrown down. Like, it almost looked like a wrestling move. Not like a German suplex, but he literally got flung down, which is something that the league always cracked down on in the past, through roughing the passer, shit like that. And there wasn't even a penalty on that. I'm not saying it was like a murderous, violent slam, you power bombed him on his head and killed the guy. But compared to, I've seen a lot less called, obviously with Tom Brady, but a lot less called roughing the passer than what we saw there. So I'm kind of like, what is the league doing? We need to have a straight line of what's roughing the passer, protecting them, etc. Because I've seen a lot worse get called where two-hand touch, you barely got near the quarterback, gets called. And on this, he did get thrown down hard. And for years past, they were always cracking down. I didn't understand why adding to that wasn't a penalty. The game, on the other hand, it was a close game. Even when Tua went out, it was still a very close game. At one point, I believe
Bridgewater threw a 61-yard touchdown to Hill.
Well, it wasn't a touchdown. It was just a pass. It was a 64-yard completion. But it was, at one point, I believe it was 15-14. Dolphins. Like Dolphins were up by 1, and then obviously the Bengals took off.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't the worst played game, obviously, compared to the two we talked about before that. Like the Bengals hung in there even when Tua went out. But as we talked about earlier, now all of a sudden the Bengals offense, and this is what I wanted to talk about. The first drive, the Bengals they took the ball, they got the ball first. They did their thing, went down and scored. Now we're 3, 4 drives later, and the announcer's like, the first drive looked like the Bengals of last year, and the last 3 drives have looked nothing like the Bengals of last year. And they didn't score. I believe they were all punts. I don't think there's any Bengal turnover in there, but I believe they were all punts, or it might have been punts and a missed field goal, whatever it was. They weren't playing like they came out and played that first drive. So what the commentators, everybody picking up are the Bengals offense is not the same as last year. And I don't know if it's because Joe Mixon hasn't been as good or if it's because Burrow was coming off surgery in training camp, stuff like that. But the Bengals offense needs to get going. In the second half, it looked much better. T. Higgins had a big game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Jamar Chase got a couple catches, but not to what he was doing last year. But the Bengals offense needs to stay on that path and put up some points and show that they are the best team in that division. They went to they were the AFC representative because right now it looks like Baltimore is. So they need to show up this year because they have competition this year.
And these are facts. Let's start with the 9:30 game over in London with the Vikings coming to take on the Saints.
I mean, obviously we'll be up, but if
I'll
you were
be up. I definitely will be up for
if you
that.
were somebody who worked like late night on Saturday night, had a job like that, are you getting up for this game? To be honest, I think the answer is no, unless you're in like some huge money league and you had guys in this game where you need to be like, oh my god, I need to make sure Dalvin Cook or someone's playing. This game doesn't feel like it's something, and I know the schedules are made well in advance. But this game just doesn't seem like something like, man, I need to get up and make sure I'm awake to watch this game and be fully invested into this game. Both teams are underachieving right now. Presumably somebody's going to win, but apparently we like ties in football nowadays. We play to tie the game. So I don't know. Obviously, we talked about it early. New Orleans offense is banged up. To an extent, the Vikings offense is a little banged up. I'm not excited about this game at 9 o'clock in the morning.
9:30, but you said it before. Kamara hasn't been producing. Jameson, who's doubtful. So, are we going to go with Taysom Hill, which would be great for fantasy purposes, or will they go with the stud fucking Andy Dalton? But like I said, Michael Thomas out. You got to see. Even Landry might not play. This is the Kamara show if I've ever seen one. But on the opposite side, you have the Vikings. You'll be good with Thielen. You have those moves. Definitely the Vikings look like the better team. But at the end of the day, the Saints are going to score 45 points and shut out the Vikings in London.
I'm not even sure the Saints have scored 45 points in 3 games, but it's probably pretty close, sadly.
You know what? the dreams. Next
The
game.
Vikings need to prove that they're a contender to win this division. They need to win this game. I don't care where it's being played. Could have been played in Alaska. I don't care. They need to prove that they can win this game.
Well, that's at the end of the point true for the Saints as well. This is definitely a who is going to at least be considered to win the division type game. And I think that both teams have something to play for. We'll get to Tampa later, but I mean, it's something where the Saints pick up dub here, even though they're banged up, could be good. But we move on to one of the games that I really am excited for: Seahawks versus the Lions. The Lions are at home.
Well, again, with the Lions being at home, if St. Brown and Swift play, this isn't even a contest at this point. Now, with those two out, the Lions are more on par with Seattle, so I can see either team winning. But I think the Lions still hang on to win this game.
I absolutely agree. There's something happening in Detroit, and I feel the fans will come up and rise. And Like I said, you know me. For 9 times out of 10, I'm a homeboy, and I feel like the Lions being at home and just how Gino can't make it work over there. I think this is the Lions' time to shine.
Look,
I
the
think that
fact it's still early and that they've been competitive in all three games will give their fans something, to be excited. If we're in week 17 and the Lions are 1-15 again, the fans aren't coming out to get excited for a Lions Seahawks game. But they're already, they've already won a game, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but there's been a lot of seasons where you're like, are the Lions going to win a game? So they've already won a game. So, they've cleared that hurdle. And now this is one of the games where it's like, okay, we are actually better than the team we're playing, and it's at home. We might be able to get to 2-2. The fans are going to come out and be loud, and that as long as they can move the ball a little bit, with Williams at back, I'm assuming, and hopefully your boy DJ Chark doing something in this game since Brown's out. Still think they'll be all right.
21-13 final score Lions.
I can see that.
Jets Steelers. Steelers are at home. Jets, come on. Wilson's back. Is it the time?
Well, sadly, and you know how negative I am towards the Jets. The Steelers aren't blowing up my skirt. They haven't looked very good. They have the weapons still. Everybody's boy Mitchell is not the man. I don't think they're just going to roll over and throw Pickett into the Wolves at some point. So this is certainly could be a trap game where the Jets give the Steelers a run for their money as long as Wilson can play. Flacco's been all right for the first three games, shockingly, and they've actually won a game with him at quarterback, which is just as shocking. But if Wilson carries over the momentum that he has and the chemistry that he has with the boys, they may actually show up on offense, which is a rarity for this team, to be honest. So with the Steelers' inept ability to be able to score, and the Jets might actually being able to score for once, because again, TJ Watt's out. He tore his pec, or not severe enough to be out for the year, but severe enough to be out for a while. So there's no TJ Watt in this game, so Wilson might actually get time to throw the ball. So the Jets could be a sneaky upset this week.
14-10 Jets.
I almost feel like that sounds like a lot, which is sad because that's not.
I was going to say 9-6.
9-6 might be a thing.
You know what also could be a thing? The Giants coming home and stomping a mud hole all over the Chicago Bears.
They
It's the
need
Bears
to.
this time, see?
There we go. They need to, because as we've seen now through 3 weeks, this Bears offense outside of Khalil Herbert leaves nothing to be desired. The benefit is that Khalil Herbert will be starting this game since David Montgomery is out, that we talked about. So oddly enough, and I like David Montgomery, the Bears offense de facto is better than normal without doing anything. So now they'll put up their rush yards, the Bears. Obviously, Fields isn't going to do anything passing for now what will be the fourth straight week. So can the Giants match run game with the Bears? Probably. Can Daniel
Barkley
Jones
has looked good 2 out of the 3 weeks.
can Daniel Jones outplay Fields? My God, I would hope so. And that is what will lead the Giants to victory. The only downfall for the Giants is that Sterling Shepard got hurt last week, out for the year. Everybody loves him. He's a great guy. So that's a downfall for the Giants. The benefit is that there might be a little more consistency to who gets out on the field, whether it's Richie James, Tony, Galladay, whoever. You don't want injuries, but this might at least clear up the picture. And now all of a sudden you're paying Kenny Galladay $21 million. He might actually get on the field. Type of deal.
I think that Barkley has to show up this game. If the Giants are serious about making a push, especially with the Eagles in this division, you got to step up and show. And I think that with Barkley playing lately, it's showing that he could do it. And I don't think this Bears team, like I said, that, like you said before, they're going to get the rush yards. And, But I still think the Giants, if they need a bounce back, give them this week bounce back, and then have the Giants say, "Listen, we are a contender," even though they really aren't.
I mean, as dumb as it sounds, the Giants find a way to lose this game. I think their season's already over, which 4 games in does sound extremely dumb. But you've already lost to Dallas, and Philly's the last undefeated team. So they're already de facto ahead of you because one team already has more wins than you, and the other team already beat you head to head, which means you need to jump 2 teams already in your division. So it's not, that's not a good way to start your season.
That is fair. Titans, Colts. Colts are at home.
Well, somebody show me you want to win this division. Like, I get it that Jacksonville's looked really good 3 weeks in, but nobody thought Jacksonville was going to win the division. These were the 2 teams. They have the best 2 running backs. They have veteran quarterbacks. They have playmakers. They're not scoring points for some reason. Somebody win this game.
And
Please.
who
Please, somebody win this game.
and who will that team be?
I really, really, really think the Titans are going to win this game.
I say
Because
Colts.
I think it's going to be a lot of Derrick Henry this week. Get the ball out of Ryan Tannehill's hands. Give it to Derrick Henry. Where I feel like the Colts are going to want to be balanced. They don't want to overwork Taylor, which to an extent sucks because he's their best player. Yes, they have Pittman. But I feel like the Titans are going to get back to their success, and it's pounding Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry. Burks has been all right. He's going in the right direction. But the Titans' offense passing game just doesn't scare anybody. Derrick Henry running you over scares people. So I think this is going to be one of those games, 1-score game, but the Titans have the ball, and they just, at that point, Derrick Henry's just worn you out, and he just keeps plowing you down. And the Titans either end up holding on to win, or whatever. Something to that, where it'll be a close game, but Derrick Henry's the difference maker. I don't have faith in either quarterback at this point. The 0-3 team, who's barely doesn't even score 100 points a week, has already dropped Matt Ryan in Dynasty League. So it's not just me who doesn't have faith in these quarterbacks.
I definitely think, no offense to Jags, whoever wins this game will win the division.
That still 4 weeks in, it is probably a pretty safe consensus.
That's what I'm saying. I good on Jacksonville, honestly, guys. Good on you. Keep doing what you're doing. But
Yeah, if they keep
these
it
are
going,
the teams.
if they keep it going, it'll change some minds. But right this minute, we're only 4 weeks in. This literally looks like, okay, whoever wins this game, and who knows, Jacksonville goes out and loses. Whoever wins this game could possibly, because one of these teams has tied, could realistically be tied with Jacksonville.
And
And
that's what I want to
now
talk.
it's a difference. That's where it just becomes a different mindset. Like, shit.
I do think the Colts will win this one, though. I know you're a favorite for the Titans. I respect that, but I do think the Colts will show up. I mean, they made a fucking miracle happen against Kansas City, and I think they're going to ride that. And
I mean,
them
on
being
paper, they're the better team.
that's what I'm saying. And they're
Both teams
home.
won close games. It's just how much did that be? Twofold. How much did it take out of the Colts beating the Chiefs? Because obviously nobody expected that. So how much did that take out of them? Can they ride that momentum, etc.? If
Can they stop King Henry?
if they essentially blew their load beating the Chiefs last week, then they got no shot at this game. But
Yeah.
on paper, there's nobody's not thinking the Titans are better than them.
24-21 Colts.
It'll definitely be a 1-score game.
That's why I said it. Chargers, Texans. Chargers are at Houston.
Oh, well, here you go. Here's your 9 out of 10 home team, blah, blah, blah. Is this a road team victory?
Yes, absolutely.
Is this finally Austin Eckler's coming out party? Will he score fantasy points?
We hope.
A fan of this show is very high on him, and he's looked like absolute ass so far through 3 weeks.
Listen,
He hasn't even averaged, and I read this earlier when I believe it was yesterday when I was just looking at my stats. So we're 3 games in, right? He has not averaged over 3 yards per carry in a game yet. So it's 3 yards per carry. We're talking about 50 yards in a game. We're getting excited about. He can't crack 3 yards a run right now. That is disgustingly bad. Like I don't even know what to compare it to. Jerome Bettis, like at the end of his career, where he literally was like, just go in there and get us that 1 yard we need. Either get the 1 yard touchdown or get us 1 yard for first down. The That's the only comparable thing I can think of Austin Eckler. How a potential, depending on the scoring, possible top 3 pick in fantasy can't get 3 yards a carry. Whatever. He needs to get it going this game. I know Herbert's banged up, so this would be perfect for them. Where if Eckler could show up and do something and take some pressure off Herbert, take some hits away from Herbert, whatever. It needs to happen this game. If the Chargers win this game and Eckler does nothing again and it relies on Herbert, the Chargers are in trouble. I don't care that they won the game. They're in trouble. Because if Eckler can't get going against the Texans, who is he getting it going against? Couldn't get it going against Jacksonville. And now you're playing the Texans. You can't get it going against them. Then all hope is lost. Jump off that ship, etc.
28-3 Chargers. Browns, Falcons. Falcons are at home.
Is this another home team losing? Or are you riding that Falcons wagon? They're in your division.
That's why. What do you want?
Oh,
You want what I think or
that
what I
hurts.
want to say?
No, we want what you think, not your homer that the
What I
Saints are going
think
to
will
score
happen
points
is I
this
think
week.
they will win this game.
Obviously, what I brought up earlier concerns me more. I like their backup. He's going to be good, but he's still a kid. I think Cordarrelle Patterson needs to play for the Falcons. If Patterson plays healthy, and played like he has 2 out of the 3 weeks, the Falcons will win this game. It being in the dome, we talked about London and Pitts going in the right directions. So if those 3 can play, I don't care that the Browns have Chubb and Hunt and Cooper. I think the Falcons for this week are better.
I couldn't agree more. That's what I said. If you want me to say what I'm thinking, I think Atlanta's going all in the right directions, especially if fucking Patterson plays. I think that will make a big impact. And the Browns, yeah, you have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but you can only ride that so much. Atlanta going to be in that dome, different atmosphere in a dome. Got to give it to Atlanta. Final score, let's go 17-13. Next game we got is Commanders versus the Cowboys. Is Mr. Rush not as good as Mr. J Rush here on the show, but
that's a given.
Is Mr. Rush gonna stay undefeated against this Washington team?
Well, the Eagles' defense, which is pretty comparable to the Cowboys' defense, held them to 8. So I'm going to assume we're probably going to see the same. It's in Dallas, in a dome again. Carson Wentz, like we said, is doing essentially what he does. Nothing mind-blowing. He has 7 touchdowns in 3 games. So it's, 2.3 touchdowns per game. Not terrible. I mean, it looks better if you take away that they only scored 8 points last week. His numbers would be better. But as we said, Carson Wentz ain't blowing the world away. Gibson's not blowing the world away. Terry McLaurin, to an extent, is not blowing the world away.
Hasn't his projection yet.
So they need to get something going on their offense. And I'm not sure if the Cowboys are a team. They are because they can get after the quarterback. And they have a cornerback who can go get the ball. So if he's on McLaurin and you're trying to force the ball to McLaurin, he's going to pick off a pass or two. So I don't think this is the week again. So I think Mr. Rush stays undefeated. And the Cowboys win. I'm going to say fairly easily, to be honest. I think it'll be a two score game minimum.
Do you see a lot of action from Eckler?
Eckler.
I mean, Elliott, Zeke. My gosh, I'm tired. Apologies.
I mean, he should, but obviously Tony Pollard. Again, we talk about him. He cuts into his carries. They've been pretty even. So if they stay as even, it's going to be hard because he doesn't break any big runs. Tony Pollard broke a 46-yard play last week. You don't see 46-yard runs from Zeke. So if they're even, like I know it was like 12-10 at one point for touches, if they're on that wavelength, no, he's going to have like another 50 to 60-yard game at best. Unless they're really dominating this game, that they have the ball all game long and both running backs touch the ball 15 plus times, it's going to be hard for him to get it going. Or if, unfortunately Pollard were to get hurt, something like that, then he's not going to get enough touches. And when he does get his touches, they're not good enough, to be honest.
Very well. So I agree with everything. But, sir, I've waited 70 minutes for this.
Ah,
I cannot wait to talk about
are we,
these next three games
we
with
are
you.
70 minutes deep. All right, let's hear it.
Let's start off with, I think, could be a big game for just who's the shit. Jags versus Eagles. Eagles are at home.
Well, we're after 3 weeks. We're talking plenty of statement games. So guess what? Here's our statement game for Week 4.
Yep.
Is Jacksonville legit? And to an extent, is Philly legit? Philly's the last undefeated team. Look, outside of 1 week, they've looked. They struggle against the Lions, who we've talked about. Talked up the Lions. The Lions put up points against them. The Vikings and the Commanders weren't able to. Jacksonville put up 38 last week. Can they come close to that this week? Because that's what they're going to need to do. Everybody's all, Jalen Hurts, MVP discussion. McJiggles brings it up all the time. I need to see more out of Jalen Hurts. Last week was the first week where he went into halftime with 316 passing yards. Every other week he goes into halftime with 85 passing yards. Show me you're going in that direction to become a quarterback. I don't need you to be a running back. Be a quarterback. Show me you can throw the ball. You have Brown. You have Smith. You have Goddard. You have weapons. Use them. Give me 2 weeks in a row. Give me 2 weeks in a row where Hurts plays a complete game, and I will buy into the hype. Until then, I'm going to, put him right on the level of Kyler Murray. Overrated, not getting it done.
Do you see the Jags winning this game?
No. And it's not because I'm thinking that the Jaguars are the past. I'm just thinking that the Eagles are overall a
More powerful.
better built team. Years past, and again, they're not the same team they were 3 years ago. But the Eagles have been built on a strong O line and above, not the greatest defense, but an above average defense. The Eagles are still toting that above average defense. So I feel like that, I think Jacksonville will score on them. I would say Jacksonville puts up 24.
Do you but a one-score game?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm thinking the Eagles will just, because Jacksonville's defense is on par with the Eagles, where I think the Eagles will be able to score more than 24.
I'm gonna go with the Jags.
Why not? When you're right, you're gonna look real good.
I'm saying.
I told you.
This next game. Bills versus the Ravens. Ravens are at home. Talk about the game you want to watch.
Offensively, absolutely. Gabe Davis, I think it was today, got held out of practice again. No, so he might not be playing. So that hurts the Bills' offense a little bit. As I tell you every week, their run game leaves a lot to be desired. Last week was no exception. Singletary was not great again. They just like the Chiefs. The possible two best teams in the AFC both have the same issue, that they struggle running the ball, which is important in the playoffs. The Bills' defense is just so banged up that I feel like Lamar will be able to pick them apart like he did last week. Obviously, they didn't play them last week, but Lamar did his thing, and I feel like this is another game where people are going to see the name, the Bills. So if Lamar lights up the Bills, they're going to see, hey, Lamar Jackson lit up the Bills, not, hey, Lamar Jackson lit up a undermanned Bills team. They literally had to dig Xavier Rhodes out of retirement to help their secondary. I don't know if he's playing. I don't think it would matter because he hasn't played in a while. So that's not a good sign anyway. So if he plays, Lamar might just light him up. But the fact that this Bills defense is so desperate that they had to go drag him out of retirement to come play tells you something and shows you something, that it's scary that their defense is in trouble. Like we said with Aaron Rodgers' offense, that they need to get him a receiver. At some point, the Bills' defense need to find somebody who's not Xavier Rhodes to help that thing. Injuries happen, and they already have two big guys out for the year. But you can't just sit here and let like systematically, oh, this guy got hurt, now this guy got hurt, this guy got hurt. You're not going to win that way with four string defensive players out there. I don't care if Josh Allen's your quarterback or not. You need to do something, and I think the Bills need to do something there.
Well said. Ravens by 10. Hate to
So you
say
said you wanted to talk about the next three games. This would make the third game. So I would sit back. I want to hear about this one.
Cardinals versus the Panthers. I feel like this is going to be Kyler Murray's big home run game. Fantasy owners rejoice because here it comes. And not only that, it does it to a team that deserves it, that took down the Saints last week when shouldn't have happened. McCaffrey might not play. It's
To be
looking
fair,
good.
he did practice today.
I understand that, but I'm
So,
just saying
so
there's the
I'm just saying,
possibility.
is he practiced today? So I'm sure he'll play.
I think that Kyler Murray, though, will surprise us all and go for 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's
Well,
going
he
to win.
couldn't go for 400 yards on 58 passes.
Hey,
So
whatever
is
it
he
takes.
gonna have to throw 75 passes to get to 400 yards this week?
Whatever it takes.
And it's
No,
also a road game. I'm just saying, it's a
yeah, but
road team.
nobody likes Carolina, so it don't matter there.
Oh, nobody likes a good old Baker. Darn.
No, in all honesty, I think honestly for Arizona, this is the game that you have to show up in a little bit. You need to show that you're not dead in the division and that you have things to offer. He may be a little bit of a baby at times, but I think that Kyler could lead this offense to the win against good old Baker and those fucking Carolina Panthers.
Well, the good thing that Arizona has going for them is that the division that's supposed to be extremely strong has not looked strong because
Mm-hmm.
everybody has their own issues. Stafford's elbow, the 49ers offense, the Seahawks are what they are, So that and that extent, I get it. It's only three games in, but they. Sorry, I saw that McDaniel stands by how Tua was handled. Yeah, okay. But yeah, somebody needs to prove something in that division as well. But sadly
That's what I'm
enough,
saying.
outside of everybody probably still thinks that this is the Bucks division to win. Still, this would go a long way for the Panthers. Do I think they'll win? No, but
So
you
you
know
agree that Kyler
the
Murray will win?
the Cardinals haven't showed me anything, so I would. And if this was last year or something, I would say that there would be like a 0% chance that the Panthers won. But the way the Cardinals have played, I would put at least a 20% chance that the Panthers would win this game. So
You think it's gonna be a close, maybe one score game?
if both said teams played to their capability, no, it would be more than a one to score game. And I'm saying both teams, which means McCaffrey plays good, Baker plays better than he played.
Mm-hmm.
The
No, I
Cardinals
get you.
should blow them out because the Cardinals guys playing to their capability are much better than the Panthers guys playing to their capability. Will this happen?
Arizona wins
We will.
by 17.
We will see.
Broncos is at Las Vegas. Carr Adams, is this the team that you go ape shit on?
Well, show me something. I need to see something out of these offenses, please. God, Carr, get Adams the ball. I mean, I want Mac Hollins to get the ball, but Carr, get Adams the ball. Broncos, get somebody the ball. Anybody, Russell Wilson. I don't care who you throw it to. If you're 8-string tight end, complete a pass down the field. Do something. Somebody, do something in this game. I feel like by the fact this is one of those times where the home team wins the game. Just because both offenses are so inept right now, somebody has to win the game. So I think the Raiders win. Which you can't say that anymore because ties, teams like to tie.
I agree with that statement.
But
I have
I
nothing
think
more.
just because the Raiders are at home, I think this is the Raiders game to lose.
Yeah, 100%. Patriots, Packers, good
Battle
old.
of the PPs.
Packers are at home. What are we thinking? Easy win for Green Bay, no?
I don't think the Patriots offense has any identity at this moment. Obviously, like we said, Mac Jones got hurt. So the Packers need to win this game. There's no reason why they shouldn't win this game. If they don't win this game, I don't know what to say about them anymore. Aaron Rodgers, reigning MVP, multiple time MVP. I don't care if he's got no weapons. He still has Jones. He still has Dillon. He has
Lazard's not that
usable
bad.
wide receivers. The Patriots legitimately don't have their starting quarterback. Be better. And you're at home with the crowd behind you. Packers offense, score more than 14.
We dare you.
Yeah, that almost does seem like a dare. Like, I dare you to score more than 14. They're like, oh, we scored 14 and 1. Maybe we'll do that again.
Well, you know what we will see in the next game is probably a very high scoring game, I would predict. If
Well,
everybody plays, I could see
we would
this game
think.
being.
I think everybody's going to play, to be honest. And by everybody else, I mean Julio Jones. I don't know if we're factoring him in. Talked about earlier. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 0 yards rushing last week. 0 on 7 carries. The Bucs defense is probably better than people give credit for. He needs to get going. It's in Tampa. When Patrick Mahomes is on the other side, I don't put stake into home road, etc. Because he's an elite quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
This is a game where the running backs need to get going. Leonard Fournette hasn't been great. Edwards-Helaire hasn't done anything running the ball. I feel like this is a game where whichever team can run the ball better will win this game. I think it'll be. I hope it'll be competitive. I don't think it's going to be a huge scoring game. I don't think both teams are cracking like a 35-30.
No. I was thinking the 20s.
But reasonable to say 28-27,
Yep.
28-24, 27-24, something like that.
Yep, I agree.
And I just think whichever team can run the ball will be that team that wins this game.
It's going to be the Chiefs because fuck the Tampa Bay.
I do think it probably will be the Chiefs just because so much going on down in Florida. All that, they may be a little distracted, whatever.
That is fair. Good point, sir. Good point. Our final game of the week on Monday is the Rams versus the 49ers.
So it's almost like one of these, hey, who wants to win this division games again?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying I'm playing him. I mean, I might be playing him in one league, but now, now that we're two plus weeks of practice in, this is Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, they're not replacing him unless he gets hurt. So this is Jimmy Garoppolo's team. Show me why you're highest paid backup, which obviously you're not anymore. That was an air quote, backup. Show me why you're the highest paid backup in football for this year. Show me, again, everybody says, oh, we were, a player or two away from going to the Super Bowl. Show me you're still that team. Show me that. You're playing the team that did go to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl. So prove it, And the same thing, Matthew Stafford, everybody's always elbow injuries. Allen Robinson hasn't done a ton. We know what Cooper Kupp is. Their run game hasn't been very good. Again, I read this stuff. They're talking about both running backs going in the wrong direction, Akers and Henderson. Somebody needs to grab the reins on that run game, prove that they're the number one back, so that this offense can get going. Because if you need Matthew Stafford to throw the ball 50 times, you might win, but it's not what you want out of your team. You want a balanced game, prove you're, the best team in that division, you're the defending champs, etc., etc.
I think it's gonna be San Fran to pull up the dub. I think it's gonna be a big game for Debo. I think it's gonna put a lot of stock in fantasy owners. You got to be knowing that he's hearing the shit and everything. But I think he's gonna, now that he has a good thing with Garoppolo. I think after a couple weeks working off the crinks, listen, Garoppolo wasn't practicing in the summer, wasn't practicing up until they threw him in week 2. when Trey Lance went out. And now you're looking at his first full week of practice, like Joey said before. I think, though, now with the practice, I think Jimmy G is going to show that they are those San Francisco 49ers of yesteryear. And I think the San Fran pulls up an upset against the defending Super Bowl champs.
See,
But
normally
Cooper
in
Cup will get
football,
175 yards.
he certainly might. Debo got paid. It doesn't concern me. Like other sports where a player gets paid and then they just kind of check out and don't show up for the next season. I don't think that's the case with him, but I do think that they need to rely on him more. Whether it's the running game, whatever. Again, we said he averages career low yards per catch, so that needs to change.
Austin Riley home run 1-1.
There you go. He needs to get open down the field, but they also need to use him in the run game. With Mitchell being out, I'm not saying Wilson's bad. I think they can rely on Wilson as well, but obviously Debo's better. He needs the ball. You get your best player the ball. You let them do what they do.
We will see. Should be some good matchups for week 4.
That is always the hope.
I'm definitely, let's take a little quick peeksy back. I'm definitely looking forward to Seahawks Lions. I want to see some love for the Lions. Obviously, I want to see the Bills Ravens, and Jags Eagles are probably my most required.
I mean, unfortunately, like I said earlier, I wish this was a game where the Lions were, fully healthy going into the season. This would be a huge momentum game for the Lions if they were, they go out there and they obviously the home, but they throw up like 45 points
Oh,
and massacre Seattle. The fans would be going nuts. They would be feeling great. I still think they win the game, but when you put up a game like that, like Jacksonville against the Chargers last week, granted it wasn't in Jacksonville, but you put up a game like that in front of your home fans when you're not, expected to be a great team, that goes a long way.
absolutely. But I want to thank everybody for joining us as always. We're on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, all that fun stuff. So make sure you hit the follow, subscribe, like, comment. Let us know in the comments if you have any fantasy questions up till Sunday, of course. Come here. We always review last week's games and this week's games. Always join with Mr. J. Rush.
Yes, sir.
So until next week, we'll see you Friday at 6:30. Peace out. All right, there it is. The